It has been a while since COVID started, and meetings are done remotely. Even important international conferences are now taking place online. You just go from your bed to your home office corner in just a matter of seconds. You connect using meeting credentials, and that is it. You're in a meeting. While this is an advantage of online meetings, problems that are typical to meetings become even more prevalent when meeting remotely. A 2020 survey has shown that people prefer to go to a dentist rather than attend a bad meeting. Meetings, especially unnecessary ones, affect the productivity of employees. Sitting in a useless meeting drains the employee of their energy, and after coming out of such meetings, they need some time to recover. In this video, I want to share with you 3 steps that you could take in order to make meetings more efficient. These apply both to the leader of the meeting and the participants. Let's start with the most important one: audience engagement. If it is very common for people to lose their focus in an in-person meeting, it tends to happen even more when meetings are done remotely. So, first and foremost, make sure that the meeting is defined. You need to define the purpose and the function of the meeting. Write an agenda and then share it with the participants of the meeting. If, on the other hand, you're a participant to the meeting, so you're invited to a meeting but you don't know what the meeting is about, do not hesitate to ask. Use leadership. A single leader for every single meeting is the most efficient option to go with, but you can also assign the role of the facilitator, of the lead or the leader of the meeting, going around in a circle every single time. Or the leader could also assign roles to different participants, for example, as a co-host, as a coordinator. Try to keep meetings shorter than 30 minutes and batch them all in a few days of the week rather than every day of the week. Longer meetings tend to decrease the productivity of employees, and too many meetings over the week means there's too much time spent preparing for the meetings. Surveys have also shown that the best time for meetings is Tuesday to Thursday and in the afternoons. Mornings are generally the most productive time of the day, and Monday is generally considered as a bad day to have meetings, while Fridays, people generally are already switching off for the weekend. Another point which is very important is never lose your audience. One way you could avoid losing your audience is by avoiding drifting. The same 2020 survey that I mentioned earlier found that the number one challenge for meetings is off-topic conversations. Another way to avoid losing your audience is to be mindful of transitions. Transitions between, for example, slides when doing a presentation, or when going from one part of the meeting to another, for example, from a presentation to a Q&A session, or switching between different speakers. Use powerful transitions to go from one part to another, and you can do that by posing questions, by wrapping up what you last said, and then switch to the next person, to the next speaker, or to the next part. Make sure that your voice is not monotone. In that way, participants tend to focus more on what you have to say during the meeting. Use hand gestures like you would use in normal in-person meetings. Use as few as possible hedging words, such as maybe, possibly, kind of, sort of. Instead, opt for more assertive words like of course, surely, certainly. Also make sure that you do not get stuck in a discussion with only one participant of the meeting. If that is the case and you need to discuss more with that person, then set up another meeting or appointment where you can discuss longer and move on to the next element of the agenda. Also make sure that everybody in the meeting feels included. You can simply do that by asking questions or asking for everybody's opinion on one matter or another. If necessary, make sure to define a set of ground rules before the meeting. For example, for every participant to join the meeting with their video on and audio off, to mute when they don't speak, to introduce themselves the first time that they speak, or for a recurring meeting, for example, they can just talk about how their week or how their month was. So from the last meeting that you had, suggest to everyone that they keep it short and to the point. You can also take advantage of every option that different online platforms offer nowadays, like for example the hand raise option, so that you avoid over speaking. Also, you can take pauses when in a long meeting. Next, environment. Your surrounding environment is very important when participating in an online meeting. For very formal meetings, you should have a neutral background or an image background, which is what many platforms offer nowadays, and a quiet place. Not this, quiet place. More informal meetings, like daily meetings with your team, do not need a clean space and can be taken anywhere. I can give you the example of a colleague of mine who, in one of our daily meetings, had to go inside his car because that was the only place where he could get a stable internet connection. In general, it is safer to have a working space that is quiet, well lit, and where you can switch very quickly from working to meeting. Sound and lighting. When you're in a meeting, make sure that it's quiet. It is very distracting and annoying when somebody opens their mic and you can hear the cars honking in the background. The sound can also be very bad when using a low quality mic, so make sure that you at least have a decent quality microphone. When it comes to lighting, make sure that there's natural light coming at you at a 45-degree angle. In case you don't lead meetings in the same place every time, then you can just as easily buy a light ring. The camera should also be of at least a decent quality. Make sure that the camera is at your eye level, and you can do that by, for example, if you're using a laptop, you can just use a stack of books to keep the laptop slightly higher, or you can, if you're sitting down, you can just lower or increase your chair in order to have the camera at eye level. Make sure you're not standing too far from the camera, looking slightly disengaged in the meeting, but also not too close. One small little detail, but which can make a big difference, is do not forget to test all of these prior to a meeting. Third and last element, presence. First of all, whether for a formal or informal meeting, I strongly really suggest that you use video and not just audio. First of all, because seeing each other's faces makes us feel more engaged in the meeting, and secondly, which is also very important, for the social aspect of it, especially in these hard times when we need each other even more than in normal times. Now, when in formal meetings, especially including presentations, I suggest you do a few things. Look at your camera and not at your screen. Like in in-person meetings, you can allow yourself to look away once in a while, or especially when somebody else is speaking, but when you are speaking, make sure that you are looking directly at your camera. It gives the impression that you're talking directly at your listeners. One trick that you could use to get used to this is have one person, for example, a member of your family, stand just behind the camera, and you can look at them while talking to your listeners in the meeting. My dad, who is a professor of physics, apparently does this every time now that he has to teach online. My mom is standing right behind the camera and she actually listens to him, even though she's not really fond of physics. Opt for standing up instead of sitting down. This way, you won't be slouching in your chair. By standing up, it will feel more like a real-life experience, and consequently, you will also start using more hand gestures like you would in an in-person meeting. Also, pay some attention to your attire. If you're standing up, make sure that you're wearing normal working day clothes. While if you're sitting down and you prefer wearing your pajama pants, then just make sure that they are not visible in the camera. During informal meetings, you can just go with the flow. I think the most important element of informal meetings is the social element. Having that will make the meeting more pleasant, and consequently you will feel more engaged and more willing to listen to the other participants and engage with them in a constructive and productive manner, and eventually it will also be more productive, which is also the objective of meetings. These 3 steps do not come naturally, so in the beginning you might find yourself struggling. Some are easy and simple, like for example, putting your camera at your eye level or using a decent mic for the meetings, while the rest take some practice to get used to. So try to be mindful of all these steps before every meeting, and in a matter of meetings, you will see yourself getting used to every single one. But you have to stick with them. This is it for this video. Let me know of your thoughts in the comments below, and I will be seeing you in the next video.